So we are 3 figures deep into the S.H.Figuarts Rurouni Kenshin line, and I think things are looking pretty good so far. Kenshin is great, whether you like how Tamashi tackled the Hakama pants design or not. I feel you still get some pretty good posing action out of him. And Saito was an all-round banger. And with the revamp anime season 2 in full gear now, I think releasing Aoshi now is probably a good idea, because from now on, as we head further into the Kyoto arc, there's another character I know a lot of collectors will probably want to see next in figure form before the season's end. So here he is, the Okashira of the Oniwa Banshu, protector of Edo Castle, Shinomori Aoshi. Let's go. So I guess Rurouni Kenshin loves tall characters. We have another 6-footer here with Aoshi, and just like Saito, he towers over Kenshin. I guess almost everyone from the series is taller than Kenshin, but here's a side-by-side comparison look with both Figuarts Kenshin and Buzzmod Kenshin. I think both work, but obviously the Figuarts does have the proportions to better match up with the other 2 figures from the same line. Buzzmod is a little bit taller, which isn't bad, but the head is noticeably bigger. As for Aoshi's design and engineering, his base body is very similar to Saito, as it's basically a suited body with some very smooth and impressive articulation. I'll get to that a little bit later. His long trench coat was always going to be a challenge, and whilst I usually always prefer cloth goods over sculpted plastic when it comes to this sort of thing, this actually looks and works surprisingly well. The coat is broken up into 5 parts. The top half has the back of the coat permanently attached to the figure, while the sides and what ultimately wraps around and makes up the front of the coat being moving separate parts. The collar is a hard plastic, but it does get softer as you move down lower to his waist, giving you some pretty good flex. The lower half of the coat is sculpted soft rubbery plastic that overlaps even when you fan it out. Yep, both pieces are on hinges, and you get enough range going up and out for more dynamic poses. I have to admit that I would have liked a removable coat, as Aoshi looks pretty cool without it too. But again, it works, and the sculpted flowiness of the coat probably looks better than any other folded soft goods coat can, but that's just me. As far as paint-apps go, you get some good highlights around the coat collar and the stripes on his suit. Nothing flashy, no shading, but everything's nice and clean. As for his pretty boy head sculpts, well, they look great too. We get 4 options, including your standard neutral glare, a couple of in-battle faces with your teeth grit and open mouth shout, as well as something I don't think Tamashi has ever done before. Well, not to my knowledge anyway, but they've also thrown in a bloodied up option as well. I've always been a little bit indifferent about the whole battle damaged blood thing, but this looks great, and it's a fantastic accompaniment to the bonus bloodied up faceplate we get for Kenshin with this set as well. And just like the rest of the paint apps, the faces are squeaky clean, no complaints here. Alright, let's get articulated with Aoshi. Okay, starting off with the head, he looks up pretty good, but the collar and the hair do get in the way. Not like he'll ever have to look up that much anyway, because he's pretty tall. But yeah, I mean, you know, when Batosai or Kenshin is jumping up in the air ready to attack, yeah, he'll need to look up. He does look down pretty good. We have a nice left and right head tilt, and some good side to side as well. Most of the movement actually is in the head, but we do get some assistance there with that independent neck joint, which is nice. Again, you do have the collar there, but because it is kind of like, you know, flayed out to the side, it doesn't get in the way as much as you would think. The only, I guess, restriction there is at the back. He probably would have gotten a little bit more looking up if the collar wasn't there, but yeah, it really isn't a hindrance. Speaking of the collar and his coat, the collar is a hard plastic, but it does get softer. I don't know if you guys can see that as it comes down to his waist. Again, it is broken up into 3 pieces, his back piece, and I guess the side and front, with the sides of his coat, the long sides of his coat being a softer rubbery plastic, and you do have the tassels there, which is that same, a little bit softer rubbery plastic as well. These side pieces here, they are on hinges, and because of the way that they have engineered it, I think it works actually pretty well. sometimes when you get solid plastic capes and things of that nature, like coats of that nature, they do separate it to give you a little bit more articulation. But then when you separate it to, articulate and to get the figure into more dynamic poses, it does, lose that illusion of being a cape or a coat. But I think this works pretty well. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit complicated, and I wonder whether it would be better using cloth goods, but I actually like how it came out. It really reminds me of how they tackled Figuarts Zero, not Figuarts Zero, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero Geto. That wasn't soft. That wasn't a soft goods robe, but it does work and function and look really good. And I really do like how you have all these lines there. It looks really dynamic. It looks really, anime-esque. So yeah, I think it turned out really well. So going on to his arms, Aoshi does move his arms past 90 degrees, which is great. We get a good range of motion there. He does have 360 there at the shoulders. Very smooth. You can't bring his arms in too much, and when you do, I guess, flex those butterfly joints, which he does have, the actual coat comes in with it, so you can kind of see that. See, it's wider there at the front, and then when you bring the arms in, it closes in as well. It closes that gap in as well, which I think is pretty neat, because that's kind of how a coat would work, in real life. So I think that is pretty cool. And again, you don't get too many gaps at the back there. I think it still looks pretty decent. He can bring his arms back a little bit, but not too much. He does have a biceps. He does have a bicep cut there. You can see it's visible, not hidden. And we do have double jointed elbows, which is nice. Very good range there. And of course, we have a swivel, and that's going to get in the way, but we do have hinges there at the wrist as well. And I like how the cuff part here is separate as well, so you do get a little bit more range with the hands, which you do need, for a dual wielding Kodachi character like Aoshi. It definitely does help, so I like that. All right, moving on to his torso. So, I mean, without the coat, he would have fantastic range. He would just be like Saito, just as good as Saito. So, I mean, look at that crunch. That is fantastic going forward. Really great crunch. Some pretty good side to side. A upper swivel there at the torso, and you do have a lower swivel there as well. I guess my one main complaint is, and I guess this is unavoidable, because he does have that kind of gold motif there running down his chest. When you do, twist it side to side, it does break up the design, but I mean, it's nothing major, and it's not a real deal. Sorry, I can't speak today. It's not a deal breaker, but yeah, just something to note about the design and engineering of this figure. Going on with his legs, Aoshi does kick up really well, actually, very high. Again, Aoshi does use Kempo, which you'll probably need for all those Kempo action poses. And he does have almost a 180 side split. Again, fantastic. Look at that. I mean, that is some really good range there. And that looks good. I like that. Very cool kicking pose right there. You can get him in. You do have a thigh cut there. Visible thigh cut. Double knees. Almost kicks his own butt. We do have a swivel there at the foot. The foot does move down. It does move up. You have your toe hinge and some pretty good ankle pivot as well. So yeah, I mean, I think this is probably one of Rurouni Kenshin's more complicated design characters, I guess. Maybe with his coat. I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing what they do with Shishio. But I think they've done pretty well, all things considered. I knew the coat would be a challenge, but I think it worked out really, really nicely. And he still retains a lot of his, really good range. And yeah, you can just get him into a lot of dynamic poses. Again, because he does have that, sculpted in coat there, when you get him into low poses, it is going to hit the ground. That is unavoidable. You just got to move that out of the way. So you do get that kind of like traffic cone effect. But it's not too bad. I mean, it is soft, rubbery plastic, and he does have a pretty good range going out. So, you can't get it to work. But yeah, have fun with it. For accessories, Aoshi comes packaged with 2 fists for all your Kempo action, a set of open palm fingers splayed out hands, again for all your Kempo action, and of course a couple of sword wielding hands to hold his double kodachi. And I really like this about Aoshi. It makes him a little bit more unique and separates him from Kenshin's other villains. We get the double kodachi themselves and a double sheath option as well. And with every sword wielding character release, yes, the handles can come out, so you can just have the sheath on its own. So one thing that I never knew, or I guess never paid attention to, was when Aoshi carries his double kodachi. So when sheath, it's super long, almost like a staff, and the way he holds it is by resting it in between his hands, right up against his shoulder, with his hands in his pockets. So Tamashii have also given us a couple of hands in coat pocket hands, which peg into the coat, because you can actually remove the pockets from the coat, with a peg hole on the left side to snugly fit your kodachi in. It's a pretty cool and I'd say iconic look for Aoshi, just like Saito and his cigarette. And let's take a look at those bloody up faces again. Ping, 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 ping. And that's another one in the bag. Like I said in my Saito review, this line has gotten off to a pretty strong start. I like Kenshin, I love Saito, and I'd say Aoshi is pretty much on par. I mean, there's not much here, but they really do look great together. We really do need the Kenshin crew to fill out some more good guys, but what I'm really looking forward to is Shishio. I'm not really sure how successful this line is going to be, but the roster is pretty big once you sit down and think about it. A ton of you have mentioned in the comments that they could go back and do a Bakufu wave, Batosai, and the Shinsengumi. Woo! I'd love to see that. But I guess we'll just have to see how well the line does. I'm doubtfully optimistic, if that makes any sense, but here's to the success of the Rurouni Kenshin figure arts line. And before we head out, today's IG inspiration is Raven0696, another amazing figure poser, mixing it up with effect pieces and some digital stuff as well. That makes his shots really pop. It's always so much fun to go through his work. Go show him some love and tell him I sent you. Alright guys, that's it for this review. We still have a ton to go. I'm still going through my October pile, including Kaiju number 9, King Cold, Best Selection Itadori Yuji, and Kid Daima Vegeta just came in the mail a couple of days ago. So what to expect for November? Well, we got Sage Mode Naruto, GT Trunks, Ichiraku Ramen Daya from Tamashii, Shinomiya from Kaiju 8, and like I said, Mini Vegeta from Daima. Oh, and I almost forgot, but we also have the Good Smile Berserker Armor Guts model kit. Hot dang, that's a lot, and it'll probably more than likely carry over to December. Sorry for the delays guys, but be on the lookout for my next video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and drop us a like if you enjoyed what you see. It helps me out a ton. Remember to do your push-ups, and I'll see you in a bit.
Yoroshiku!